myself as anything other than a supporter who was lucky enough to get to play for Celtic.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Four Leaf Clover podcast. Tonight, we are joined by one of the men who stopped the 10. Our final guest for the Tommy Burns month on the Four Leaf Clover podcast is our man in the middle, right there. You're Simon Donnelly. How are you doing, sir?
I'm good, mate. Evening, lads. Hope we're all well.
Welcome, Simon.
Thank you so much for joining us this evening, Simon, and hopefully we can get you on again to talk about your own career, but what we are going to talk about tonight is the main man himself, Tommy Burns. We've given Tommy the full of September for his month on this podcast. We've had his son Jonathan on, we've had our man down the bottom there, our Jerry, who was a YTS at Kilmarnock, and our other contributor, Davy Wilson, who was a YTS under him at Kilmarnock as well, as our guests. And Simon, you are our last one. So our Simon was at Celtic from 1993 to 1999 under Liam Brady, Lou Macari, who gave him his debut, Tommy Burns and Wim Jansen. Tommy joined Celtic as the Celtic manager in 1994. His signings included Enrico Annoni, Phil O'Donnell, God rest him, Simon's good friend, Andres Tom, Alan Stubbs, Tosh McKinley, Pierre Van Hooijdonk, George Cadetti, Paolo Di Canio, and the best one of all for me, for longevity and for how good a servant he was to Celtic, was another best friend of our Simon's, is our Jackie Mack. So, Simon, let's get straight into it. When is your first meeting with Tommy? When was your first ever meeting with him and your sort of earliest memory, mate?
Well, I obviously remember him as the player. First, when I was a kid, a really talented footballer, and he went into management down at Kilmarnock after playing down there for a spell. But my first actual meeting was with the under-21s before he signed with Celtic, or before he became manager rather. It was the under-21s Toulon tournament, and he was working with Tommy Craig, working alongside Tommy, and it wasn't long after that he got the job. And I remember as a kid at that point feeling quite excited because I enjoyed the sessions that they were putting on. It was really good quality sessions when he was working with the Scotland setup, and I thought, well, we're going to get a lot more of that when he comes on board as manager at Celtic. But briefly after that, just before he came, it was Tenerife 94, as you say, 94. I was in Tenerife on my boys' holiday, and I just kind of broke into the first team. But I was away with, in fact, Brian McLaughlin was with us, and a couple of school pals. And we were walking along the beach in Tenerife. This is just before he came to the club. And we were maybe a wee bit worse for wear for the night before, and we were playing a kind of lookalikes game, Sporting Folk. And I went, there's Tommy Burns. And it was Tommy, and it was him and his wife walking along, and me and Brian were a wee bit apprehensive because this guy was going to be our new boss. Thankfully, I hadn't seen us the night before, and it was the morning after kind of thing. But that was my first meeting with him, just as I say, before he got the job there.
Brilliant, man. What a story that is. And, you played under Lou Macari, who wasn't, let's say, very popular amongst a lot of the players at Celtic, never mind the fans. What was the big difference between Lou Macari and Tommy Burns then that you noticed to start with?
Well, in fairness, as you touch on there, I've got nothing but gratitude for Lou. Gave me my first, I think, 10 starts, and obviously my debut through at Hibs. So I knew obviously there was issues with the kind of the boys that are already established in the team. I was just a young kid looking for my chance, and Lou gave me it. What I'll say is Tommy Burns was the first manager that I had a proper working relationship with, and because I got myself into that first team and established myself in the first team under Tommy. Before that, I had just been kind of coming in, as I say, just towards the end of Lou's tenure. So he was the first one that I really had a good relationship with. And if you speak to anybody from 94 onwards, even when he came back as a coach, a lot of the young lads, your Aidan McGeady's, your Sean Maloney's, after myself, me, Brian McLaughlin, Jackie Mack, as you spoke about, Stuart Gray, who's no longer with us, all the boys benefited from him taking us back in the afternoon and working on little things. And it wasn't rocket science, it was just putting wee pictures in your head, and it was all very enjoyable, and you could take it onto the pitch. And that was, as I say, the first real manager that I had a proper working relationship with.
Yeah. And one of the things that TB did straight away, mate, was he changed you from a striker into a right midfielder, and that changed your career massively, didn't it, mate?
Scotty, that I've spoken about this recently, and the more I think about it, I came into the team as a striker, and I'd regarded myself as an attacker or a striker from the minute I signed at Celtic. And I scored a few goals and thought, stupidly thought, this is a piece of cake. And then I was brought back down to earth the season we went to Hampden. I really struggled. I had an injury and my confidence was down. Maybe people were more aware of me, after being the kind of new kid on the block. But I really struggled that season. Never scored a goal. And we went to Germany the following pre-season, and he took me aside and said, listen, I'm going to take you away for the firing line. We'd signed Pierre. He says, I'm going to take you and play in a deeper role. Now, whether he already had it in his head to bring Jackie in not long after, I don't know. But he says, I'm going to play in a deeper area where we think you can link. And I hit the ground running on that position. I really enjoyed it. And it was a crossroads, because after that season, I could easily have fell by the wayside with Celtic. He seen something in my game that he put me in a deeper role. Jackie came to the club not long after that. Yeah. And then he was bringing in to complement Pierre. It was Andy Tom, Cadet, the boys that were already there, John Collins, Paul McStays. And it was a wonderful team to play in. We went so close with that team, but that really kick-started my career. After having a little taste of it at the beginning, the Hampden season was a real struggle for me personally. I think he played me in the cup final against Airdrie, and as I say, put me in a different role positionally in the team, and it really helped my career.
Aye, it was a great move by him, and I just want to bring in the rest of the lads now. How rude of me, very sorry. Andy, Jerry and Paddy, I'm sure that you've got some questions for your Simon as well, so let's get them in. Andy, let's start with yourself, mate. Have you got anything to ask your Simon?
I've actually got a couple.
Go for it.
I don't know if I'll fit the two of them in. I might leave one of them for kind of later on. First one is obviously when you started with Celtic, it was a really tough time for the club at that time. You're still a young guy just coming into the club.
Yeah.
Really didn't know what the future was like for Celtic, because it was kind of in turmoil. Did that affect you in any way? Like obviously you've been signed, you've gone to a massive club, but things just done quite right. Did that affect you in any way as a player, like on the park? Did it ever come into your mind or worry about what was going to happen?
Not really, Andy. As you said there, I was joining a massive club. I got the chance to sign for Celtic. It was in summer of '92 actually when I signed, and I was probably like every other kid, just wanted to be a professional footballer. Didn't know how I was going to do it, but I had 6 months at Queen's Park and got a chance to go to Celtic, and I never gave it a second thought. I remember the day my dad was a teacher, and he took the morning off school. Don't know if his school knew that, to come and speak to Liam Brady and negotiate my first lucrative deal. And I remember we came out of Celtic Park and the sun was shining. And it's a great moment. I look back fondly with my dad. We walked back to Rutherglen discussing it. And I signed not long after. But for that next 18 months, for me, it was just, I couldn't believe I was rubbing shoulders with, even if it was in reserves or under 18, I was rubbing shoulders with guys like Paul McStay, Peter Grant, you know, guys that I'd watched on the telly, big names, Charlie Nicholas. I just loved every minute of it. And that 18 months until Lou McCarry came in and gave me my chance to start, or come off the bench rather, for the first team, I just strived to try and get in that first team. We trained at Barrowfield. There was 2 pitches. One was for the reserves and one was for the first team. And I just remember looking over there, that's where I want to be. And, you know, there's just something in you. It's like an obsession to try and make it. And luckily got into the team. When I look back now, would I have got into an all-firing Celtic successful football team? Maybe not. I'd like to back myself and think I had the ability to do that. But maybe I got a chance at that time because Celtic weren't performing as well as, you know, expected. And you know, I got a chance at 19 years of age to play for the first team and took it.
Can I ask you, just, sorry, Scotty. Did you actually take part in the League Cup final at Hampden, that Coca-Cola Cup final? Were you in that team?
At Ibrox, you mean?
Aye. What did I say?
I started that. Well. So that was to play in a final at that time. I've conveniently erased it from my memory, obviously because of the result. But to be picked to play in a final was amazing. But there was an incredible amount of pressure. I think, again, looking back on it, I'm a young guy just making my way in the game. But when I look back on it, the expectation and Tommy to try and win some silverware, and the captain Paul McStay missing the penalty, it was hellish. It must have been real pressure for the guys, and it made it all worthwhile when we went on to beat Airdrie in the 95. I remember looking at guys like Granty, who probably a week to go before that final shouldn't have been playing. He wasn't fit, but he managed to get himself fit for it. I looked at Paul McStay, I looked at Tommy, I looked at Billy Stark, guys that had all been through successful Celtic teams towards the mid to late 80s, and they'd been starved of that, any success, and for him to come back as manager. And I look at it, and I look at the wee snippet there just before we came on, the look and the emotion in their faces. It was amazing. And it was just, it must have been a huge pressure. That was his first piece of silverware as manager.
Aye. Brilliant questions, Andy. Thanks very much for that. Jerry, have you got anything to ask Simon, mate?
I've got a couple there, but I'll try to squeeze one. But Simon was talking about Peter Grant there, Simon. I was actually up in Simo Hydro that day, a few days, playing Scotland. They let him out the water. He was injured, remember? And I think he was actually man of the match. Peter Grant.
He was man of the match. He was man of the match, yeah.
That just showed you what he wanted to do for Tommy, yeah?
Yeah, and
he's all wanted to do.
You've seen the emotion at the end with them all, because they were friends and ex-teammates, and they wanted to do it for him, as you say, and it was great to see. And I mean, listen, I've heard this before, but I remember Paul McStay saying to me, take this in, and I remember stupidly thinking, you know, there'll be more of this. That was my only successful Scottish Cup, but you're 19 and you sometimes dismiss stuff, but I remember him specifically saying that to me. And then as I got older and I look at the emotion on the 4 or 5 guys in particular that had been, as I say, used to success at Celtic towards the end of the 80s, and how much it meant to them, it was special.
The question I had for you is actually, we're talking about the European night, that night, the rower, before the game. You were actually playing half float in a game. It was a bigger rower. It was 96. She scored 2 goals against Aberdeen 5-0. The bigger rower was George Cadetti. Come on, remember?
Did the radio, did the station?
The radio station went off and everything. That's what we're talking about, Rose, me and my pals. And I was saying, I was at the time 96. You scored a cracker with a header and a Bolton, but you scored 2 crackers that night.
Yeah.
And the roar when Cadetti came on for his debut, wasn't it?
It was amazing.
That was unbelievable.
I think, am I right in saying, with the temporary stand as well at the time, so it wasn't the full enclosed 60,000?
It was just, I think it was in the 40s, or the 50s, 51 or something.
That was a special night. I've seen a little bit on social media earlier on. There was another one where we snatched a victory at the death for Dundee United, and it was Pierre and Andy Tom scored.
Tom, that's right.
And the noise there that day as well. It was pretty special. That on social media earlier on. But the other, I mean, I worked at the game the other night, and I was saying, I mean, Celtic Park was rocking, and that's brilliant. It's obviously coming from what they're seeing on the pitch as well, you know. But it was an exciting game, and Celtic played really well. So yeah, I hope there's a few more of them in this Champions League campaign.
It was enjoyable all night. The other wee quick question was, Simon, was I thought you and Jackie done brilliant at Partick and Dundee United. I thought you were building a right good team at United.
Yeah.
I'd just like to ask you, would you and Jackie ever get back into management, or did you enjoy being assistant? Would you go back to it?
I think that boat has maybe went. I think I really enjoyed Partick, and I really enjoyed Dundee United. We worked with some talented boys, particularly Dundee United. I mean, 3 of them went on to Celtic. But there's another side to the game I don't like. You know, you can be up there 1 minute, and the next thing you're down, and you're. I mean, we lost our players, and then people look and think, right, pull another rabbit out of the hat. And it doesn't always work like that. But I did enjoy my time there. We found it more difficult when we went down south to York, and that whole episode, without wanting to dwell on that, kind of left a bad taste with me. So I enjoy what I do now, and I'd never say never. I mean, I've done football camps for kids in school holidays with my pal Charlie Miller for my school days. We've done that in recent times, and I thoroughly enjoy all that. There's no real pressure on it, and you're trying to create an environment where the kids will come and enjoy playing football. But no, I don't know if I would get back into it.
Yeah, well, thanks for that, Simon. Cheers.
Brilliant. Cheers, Jerry. And Paddy, have you got a question or two to ask her, Simon?
I have one for him too, yeah. Simon, I just wanted to ask you about one of my, obviously Tommy was one of my, probably my favourites of all time. But I also love Paul McStay.
Yeah.
And I always like to ask guys who played with him, you know, when you look at the modern players today in the modern game, I know things are different, but where would you rate Paul McStay if he was playing today?
He'd be up there with the best.
Aye.
I remember watching Paul McStay when I was a kid at Hampden. He scored, I think, against Iceland, and he would only have been about...
That was it, that game.
17, 18 himself. Thunder strike right into the top corner, and it stuck with me. And I actually went to... It was Kenny Dalglish's testimonial golf day up at Cathkin Braes, and I remember my dad taking me and 3 of my mates up, and I get a picture with Paul.
Yeah.
And I'm only maybe 12, 13 in the picture. And fast forward to I'm now playing in the first team, and my mum took the photo in to the players' lounge to show his mum. It was just a great moment. But when I go back to talking about the Barrowfield one pitch and getting on that other pitch, when Lou McCarry gave me my chance to go on that other pitch, I remember it was a 7-a-side game, one of the first sessions. It was 7-a-side, and I found it easy because you're playing with so many good players. I was playing things round the corner and 1-2s with Paul McStay. I almost had to pinch myself. You know, I was playing with these guys that were so good. Obviously, towards the end of his career at that point, and he had a big problem with his ankle, which he ended up having to retire probably a wee bit early. But to be on the pitch, and I touch on that 95, 96 team. I know I went on to win the league in 98, and I loved playing that team. But I really, really enjoyed playing in that team of 95, 96. And I have so many folk come up to us and they remember it, because I thought the football was pretty good.
Oh, yeah.
We just drew too many games. That's what killed us in the end.
Yeah.
That team is some of the best football I've ever seen as a Celtic fan.
Yeah.
It was just,
I remember going out and confident going into games that we're going to score 3 or 4 today, and you would be beating Hibs 4-0 or Aberdeen that 5. But it was, I watch it back now, and it's stylish. It's good football to watch. It's something that I can sit here and be proud and say that, you know, I was part of it.
It was unbelievable football, and Tommy was ahead of his time for sure, and that's something we're definitely going to come on to in a minute then, Simon. So, gentlemen, thank you very much for those questions there. So just come back to Tommy turning you into a right midfielder, as it would have been back then, Sid. What he done was he done drills, didn't he, outside, you know, in training and stuff like that with 3 or 4 days. He took it to the one side. You and Jackie Mack, Brian McLaughlin, guys like that, and you know, he used to gaff his nutways as well, didn't he? When passing drills and stuff like that. If you weren't doing it right, as Jerry and Davey as well.
He had demands. He'd obviously been through it himself as a player with the coaches that he'd worked under. He had demands. He'd come passing drills. If something was inches out of the wrong side, he'd be on you. And it really brought, and regardless who it was, whether it was me as the young guy or Pierre Van Hooijdonk, it'd be on you. And it really just drove you to try and get to levels every time you trained. But it was good with it. The young lads like myself, he would take us back. And as I said, just be wee bits, right, we'll work on your right-hand side there. Little triangles, seeing pictures that you could then take into your game at the weekend. But it was demanding. And we're just talking before I came on about how we're all getting a little bit older and it's tougher playing football now, especially when I'm playing on big pitches. But Tommy and Billy used to play in the reserves, sometimes at Barrowfield. If there was spaces needed filled, him and Billy would take part. Now, I worked it out that would maybe be about 40 at the time. But see if you played something a yard away, and normally a young, youthful guy would maybe stretch. Tommy obviously, and it was boy. But it brought a demand on you that you had to actually get it to his feet. And that was everything. It kept you on your guard, really. Like, you didn't ever want to drop your standards because it'd be on you. And I think that's a good thing.
Brilliant. And talking about standards, when Tommy brought all the foreigners in, it was sort of like a first time in Scottish football had really happened, that all these foreigners had came in. Did they up the standards as well, Simon?
Oh, definitely. I mean, that's not to say there wasn't already quality there. I learned a lot of Charlie Nicholas when I first broke into the team, because Charlie was coming probably towards the end of his career as well. And Charlie probably himself would admit he never really had blistering pace, but he was clever in his movement to get a yard of space to make a decision, to do something with the ball. And I kind of watched that kind of stuff where I picked up a lot of stuff with him. You couldn't fail to with these guys, McStays and Collins and all these players that I was enjoying playing and training with. But when he brought in the likes of Pierre and then Andy Tom, who was an excellent footballer, Cadet, absolute goal machine, Di Canio, what a talent. This actually got us closer to try to win the league. It definitely did. And I think that although we didn't get over the line, I think a lot of fans recognised the football from that time. And I think for my development, you talk about him taking me to a different position. I think those players, if you ask players, good players round about you, unless you're Messi and you can do it all yourself, and even Messi needed great players, but when you've got good players round about you, it only elevates your game.
Aye. And let's just have a quick look at his record at Celtic, gentlemen. So he was there for 3 seasons, as you can see. 96, 97, 94, 95 season. You know, his record wasn't brilliant. When the first season at Celtic, we finished 4th in the league that season, which is unbelievable to think about that now.
Is that the Hampden season?
Aye. And the League Cup final lost to Raith Rovers, which we'll not speak about. But let's just have a quick chat about that Scottish Cup final win, Simon. We hadn't won anything for 6 years.
Yeah.
And, you know, you did comment on it earlier. You could see what it was like to the McStays and the Peter Grants and guys like that, the emotion that came out. But just, give us it for your side after the game. What, can you remember in the dressing room and stuff like that? And just
that conversation with Paul McStay was in the dressing room after it. See, to be honest, we obviously went back to Celtic Park. I think I went out with friends into the town afterwards. But it was a pretty... The game wasn't in itself that great. It was pretty nervy. Pretty nervy. I mean, Tosh swings that one in and Pierre has a great header that was fitting to win the game. But after that, we never really... It was very similar, I think, to the St Johnstone game in '98 when we got over the line with Harold's goal late on. It was quite a nervy situation. But again, finals, you just have to win them somehow. And thankfully we did.
Aye, it certainly wasn't nice to watch at all. And then if you look at that 95-96 season, 36 games in the Scottish League. And this tells the tale, is what you said earlier there. 24 wins, 11 draws.
Yeah.
We just one defeat. It was the draws that killed us. If you look at Tommy's record overall there, mate, if you look at it up the top, he only won 55%. Win rate. That's pretty shocking, really, when you think about it. And it's all to do with the draws. If you look at underneath it, all the draws, 27% Tam's games as a manager was draws, which again is for a Celtic team. But that's what killed us that season. And, the financial doping that we all know about now, he was always up against it. He was always under pressure at Celtic to produce the goods and try and topple that very strong Rangers side. We've heard for his boy, we've heard for Jerry, we've heard for Davy. His happiest time in football was at Kilmarnock, as a manager. There's no doubt about that. His worst time was at Reading. But he didn't have a good time at Celtic. As much as he was a Celtic man, and as much as he is, and we like to call him Mr. Celtic, it wasn't really that good a time for him at Celtic, was it? Because of the pressure he was under.
I think it's exactly that. And I think he would feel so responsible because it's his club. It's kind of first love in football. And that's where, I mean, me as a player, I wish he'd won a league. I wish that great team of 95, 96 had got over the line for him. Because the way it finished for him was horrible. I think we get beat in the Scottish Cup replay against Falkirk, which cost him his job. But again, I go back to the product that he was putting on the pitch, the excitement and the memories that a lot of Celtic supporters will have from that time. I mean, football for me, you touch on me and Jackie's time in football, we took a lot from the likes of Tommy Burns. We wanted to put something on the field that people would remember, not just their surviving and trying to get out, but playing attractive football and, something that entertained. And that, I think that's what he did with that team. Ultimately, especially at Celtic, you have to win. You have to win the league, and that's what cost them in the end. But I think it did start something. We went on to win it in '98. It did start something, bringing those foreign lads, that talent into the team, because obviously Larsson followed shortly after under Vim, and we did go over the line 97, 98. But I think the football that we were playing a couple of seasons before was progress, and I think it was entertaining.
Do you think are you saying that he built the foundations then for you to go on and actually win that league? Did Tommy build that?
Because you look at some of the players, you touched on Jackie. Jackie was a mainstay for 10 years. Phil O'Donnell, fantastic player. He brought these guys in, to complement the other ones, the Van Hooijdonks and Andy Toms. But it amazes. Well, it doesn't really amaze me, but it always makes me smile when Celtic fans come up and talk to me about that time, that period, because, as I say, we didn't win the league, but they remember the football.
Aye, for sure. Absolutely. And then on the final season, after that, only losing one game all season, he went into the final season, and unbelievably for me back then, he actually spent 8.3 million on Di Canio, Stubbs, Tommy Johnson, Enrico Annoni, and David Hanna. So he certainly rolled the dice in that last season that he was at Celtic. And I think
Stubbs went on to be one of the massive players in that season as well at the back, him and Reaper.
Yeah, he was brilliant for Celtic as well, mate. So let's just have a quick look then, Simon, at the highs and lows under Tommy. So we'll start off with the highs. So winning his first derby match, 2-0 at Ibrox in August 1994, courtesy of John Collins and Paul McStay. Ending the trophy drought by beating Airdrie 1-0 in the 1995 Scottish Cup final. Thrashing Hearts 4-0 at Tynecastle in September 1995 with doubles from Brian McLaughlin and Andy Walker. Now, this is one I wanted to speak to you about, was beating Dynamo Batumi 3-2 away in September 1993, courtesy of Andy Tom double and Simon Donnelly goal. Our biggest European away win for 9 years. Now, I've never heard MD talk to you about this ever in my life. You must dine out in that goal against him. That was an absolute belter that you scored, and you can find it on YouTube, by the way.
The home game, the strike.
The one outside the box that you hit.
Aye, that was in the home game.
What a goal.
Aye. I bummed about that one as well to my kids. It's very unlike me. I'm surprised I could hit it that far.
Aye, when I was watching it back, doing a wee bit of research, I was like, Christ, I've never seen him score a goal like that before. It was an absolute
that reminds me of the Paul McStay one against Iceland. Just a smash it for 25 yards. Or I've added maybe 30 yards. I've added a couple of yards on every year with that one.
Aye, it was about 27 and a half, I think it was about that. So, thrashing Dynamo Batumi in the 4-0 at home in September 1995, courtesy of a double from Tom, goals for Donnelly and Walker. Biggest European win for 7 years after that. So you can see the trend starting to build here under TB. Then an entertaining 3-3 draw at Ibrox in November 1995 with a cracker from Tom, a Collins penalty and a Van Hooijdonk header. Thrashing Aberdeen 5-0 at home in April Fool's Day 1996 with Cadetti's debut goal raising the decibel levels, which we spoke about. Will Van Hooijdonk and Donnelly scored doubles. And then finally knocking Rangers out of the Scottish Cup in March 1997 with a 2-0 win at home, courtesy of Malky Mackay's header and Paolo Di Canio's penalty. So Sid, out of those highs, I think I know what you're going to say, but what one stands out for you?
There's a few good memories there. A couple that I'm involved in myself. I think from his time in charge, it has to be the silverware. I think it has to be the cup. There's some great moments, some special moments there, and just to get so close. But I think the cup win makes him, a sense of achievement coming back to the club, and he won the cup.
Aye, you could definitely see the emotion after the game. That's what I thought you were going to say. It has to be the Scottish Cup, and it should have been obviously the League Cup as well that season as well. But listen, he got the job done in the end. So let's have a quick look at the lows. Playing 11 consecutive league games between October and Boxing Day 1994 and winning 0. Losing the 1994 League Cup final in penalties against First Division Raith Rovers. Losing 3-1 at home to Rangers in October 1994. Hateley scored twice and Loudrup once with Paul Byrne. Christ, remember him scoring for us. Knocked out the 1995 League Cup 1-0 at home to Rangers with Alan McCoy scoring. Losing 2-0 at home to Rangers in our only defeat of the 1995-96 league season. Gascoigne and McCoy scoring in that one. And thrashed by PSG 3-0 in our joint worst home defeat in Europe, courtesy of a local double and Nuama goal. Now, me and Jerry had a quick chat about this in the group chat. Simon, I just wanted to come back to you on this one. Paul Le Guen actually played for Paris Saint-Germain then, didn't he?
Aye, yeah. And I remember that, obviously, when he got the Rangers job many years later. But I remember in those days we didn't domestically, we didn't really. We expected to go out and win, so you didn't really have detailed analysis on opposition as much because you were playing them 4 times and you kind of knew everybody. But I remember them having the flip chart in the 2 games, and Billy Start and Tommy Burns going over the Paris team. And I remember Le Guin being in that team. There's a few. That was a really good team with Djorkaeff.
Evan, that one, aye.
They went on to win it that year.
Aye.
Actually, I played in a tournament a few years back, Star Sixes, down in London, and France were sharing a dressing room with Scotland, and I went into the toilet and bumped into Djorkaeff, and I took the opportunity to say, I played against you, 95, 96. He couldn't remember me, obviously, but he thanked me because he says, after we beat you, we went on to win the trophy.
He was.
They were a really good team.
Some team they had some team back then. So did Marseille and all that back then as well, didn't they? The French were brilliant back then. So let's have a quick look at the rest of them, gentlemen. So knocked out the 1996 Scottish Cup semi-final, 2-1 by Rangers. Van Hooijdonk scored for us, Laudrup and McCoist for them. Losing 2-0 at home to Hamburg in the first leg of the 1996-97 UEFA Cup, courtesy of Barron and Shoop. Losing 1-0 at home to Rangers in November 1996, Laudrup scoring. And losing 1-0 at home to Rangers 1997, Laudrup scoring. That gave Rangers an 11-point lead. And as you touched on a minute ago, Simon, Tommy's final game as Celtic manager was losing 1-0 to Falkirk in a replay of the 1997 Scottish Cup semi-final. So, let's get to Tommy's sacking then. Were you aware it was coming? I know there was a lot of media speculation at the time that, he was on a sugary peg and stuff like that. When can you remember finding out? And did Tommy, just one thing I wanted to ask you about behind the scenes is we know he went out the front door and he got asked to go out the back door. Did he address the players before he left as well? And what did he say to you?
Scott, I honestly can't remember. I knew he was under incredible pressure because we should have won that. We should have been in the final. And it was a chance of another win. Obviously, Falkirk went on to play Kilmarnock. I think Kilmarnock won it in the end, which was ironic, obviously being one of his old clubs. But I can't remember. I remember how I felt. As I said to you at the start, it was the first manager of the club that I had a real relationship with because I got myself into that first team and I was working with him daily, and he was helping my progression in football, my career. So I remember being gutted, but I really can't remember if he addressed us as a team before he left.
So, Simon, I know you've got to take your boys to training in 5 minutes or so. So just last question for myself, and then we'll go back around the lads quickly, see if they've got anything. So overall thoughts on Tommy and the impression that he made, not just on your career, but on your life, because I know a lot of guys say it wasn't just a career, it's what he done to make them a better person. Did they have that same impression on you, mate?
Aye, it the biggest influence in my football career out with my own father, to be honest. And I say that because after that season that you touched on there in Hampden, it was terrible, finishing 4th for Celtic, beyond belief. My first full season, I'd lost confidence, I'd lost form, and it seen something in me that re-energised my whole, it changed me at a crossroads, and I went in a different direction and played the best part of the next 4.5 seasons in the first team because he'd seen something in my game. And yes, I was with him in that, I was tweaked about different places. I covered for Jackie when he was out injured that season. I played up front with Henrik. But him taking me back and playing in a deeper role allowed me to learn different parts of the game, playing in that midfield. So he's the biggest influence out with my own father growing up. And that's, my number one coach. And I've got a hell of a lot to thank him for.
Just one last question for me, and then we'll go to the lads just very, very quickly. Just it's something that a lot of Celtic fans talk about, and something we've spoke about on this podcast and previous podcasts. Do you feel that Lennoxtown or Barrowfield should be named after Tommy Burns?
I think it's a great idea. I think it's been mentioned before. As I said earlier, if you go from my time and you look at all the young players that have come through, I remember Sean Maloney talking about them, Aidan McGeady, boys like Darren O'Day, all these guys that came through, he's affected every one of them. You know, he's helped every one of them coming through, and it would be fitting. I know Barrowfield's getting done up at the moment. Actually, I drove by it the other day. It'd be fitting to have his name on something there. Absolutely.
Yeah, for sure. So, Andy, we'll go around the table very quickly before Simon has to shoot off. Have you got anything else to ask him, pal, before he goes?
Aye, just one more thing, Simon. It's actually to do with your time when you left Celtic in 1999. You went to Sheffield Wednesday. Yourself and Phil, God rest them. The two of you went together on a Bosman. How did that move come about? Did you kind of get together and say, let's go somewhere together? Did Sheffield Wednesday come in and offer?
No, I think there was interest. We had the same agent. I think there was interest. I think I was told that Everton and Sheffield Wednesday were interested in myself. I think it was Walter Smith at the time. So whether he'd obviously seen us from his time in Scotland, and I think Phil was getting linked with West Ham. But when the opportunity came for the two of us, it was a big step for us. I was 23, 24. You're still relatively young, and I'd only known Celtic for 7 years since. So I think it was comforting that the two of us were going, if you know what I mean. He'd a young family. I just had my girlfriend at the time, who's now my wife. I had no kids, so we were going. I think it was comforting for the two of us to go down together and go through it together. And I'm grateful for that, because obviously you can't foresee what happened to Phil, but I had 4 fantastic years there. I don't think the football ever hit that. It certainly didn't hit the heights that I'd experienced at Celtic. That's no disrespect to Sheffield Wednesday. But I lived inside his pocket for 4 years. We went through everything: birthdays, christenings, family get-togethers. I shared all that time with Phil, you know, and obviously it was tragic what happened to him a few years later. So I just look back on that, and maybe it was fate and meant to be.
Almost 17 years this year, Simon. He's been away. Unbelievable.
Scary.
Right. Thanks for that.
Cheers, Andy. And Jerry?
I'd probably just ask Simon, obviously I'd be Henry Larsson is the obvious, but who would you think was the best player you actually played with, even on the training ground and everything, the full package, good guy and all? Who do you think was your best player you played with, Simon? Or the teams you played with?
I think Henry is the obvious answer. I think it's hard to not mention him, but we've spoken about some players on here tonight. We've not even touched on Lubo Moravcik. I had a year and a half with Lubo, or a year rather, with Lubo. And when you look at it, especially in recent times, they're two of the best players that have played for Celtic, and I was fortunate enough to work with them for a period. But Paul McStay, my pal, Jackie Mack, very, very clever footballer, complimented me on the right-hand side. Maybe even elevated my game on the right-hand side as well. And, you know, Charlie Nicholas as well at the beginning, very, very clever footballer who I tried to pick up things on as well. But on the whole, and that's without even touching on Van Hooijdonk, Andy Tom, Cadet. I look at my time there, albeit I won one league, one Scottish and one League Cup. So you look at the teams of the modern time where guys like James Forrest have got unbelievable, I think he's the most medals, or he's certainly going towards that anyway.
Season,
aye. So I still look back and go, you know what, I played with some really good players in my time there.
Right. Wee Jackie was hard as nails, wasn't he? I know. And he had to be. I mean, he played great football. Like you say, the Hibs game was brilliant. 2 years that day, I think it was 4 or 5 nothing against Hibs. That's done it for me.
I think we had, I mean, I speak about the work we did with Tommy, and that obviously was true. We did work, but I think there was something with Jackie, I don't know. I knew where he wanted the ball. He knew where I wanted it, and we just it was just a partnership that worked on that right hand side for a period. It was really good to be part of.
Great partnership. You could tell your friendship was on the pitch. You were telepathic, mate. It was brilliant to see back then. Paddy, quick question for Simon before he goes, pal.
That's it. This is my wee grandson, Simon. He just wants to meet you. He was a mascot against Bratislava the other night.
Oh, was he?
This is our this is Caleb.
Mascot, wee man. Did you enjoy it?
Yeah.
Yeah. He had a good day out. Yeah, brilliant day out. Listen, I won't keep you, Simon. The last one I want to ask you about was Tommy Boyd was at our club dinner last summer, and he talked about the goal that you scored that should have won us the league that year at Dunfermline on the Sunday.
Yeah.
And along came Craig Falkenbridge. So Tommy Boyd tried to tell us afterwards that was all part of the plan with the players to get.
I've heard them say that before.
Is there any truth in that at all?
No, absolutely not. You should have seen her bus on the way back to Fife.
Yeah.
We just wanted to go and play St Johnstone the next day.
Yeah.
We the tension was that bad. We didn't want to wait the week. I've heard him tell that story because I've done numerous evenings with Boyd, and he likes to say that. But listen, the scenes the following week, from a personal point of view, it'd been bloody amazing to get the goal that took us over the line. But it wasn't to be. And as I said, the next Saturday was special. But the week leading up to it wasn't too great. You were wanting to, as I say, get that out of the system and go again the next day. So Boyd is
he's on it, is he?
Tweaking with the truth there a wee bit.
Well, cheers, Simon.
So, ladies and gentlemen, Simon has to shoot off now. He's taking his boys to training. Thank you so much from myself, Simon, and all the guys on the
enjoy the rest of the season.
And the viewers as well. Thank you so much for coming on, mate. And we'll catch up next time on Back in Scotland, pal.
Brilliant.
All the best. See you later, pal. Bye-bye. Cheerio. Oh, lads. How good was that?
Brilliant.
Andy, what was your thoughts on that, mate? Brilliant to have him on,
Just flawless, wasn't it? He just kind of brilliant to listen to. Well done for getting Sid on. I know Scotty, you've put a hell of a lot of work into the podcast overall, but particularly this and the whole Tommy Burns month has been a lot of work and effort put into it. So that's after you, mate. You've been.
I'm just hoping, boys, we don't just let the Tommy Burns Centre just fall away. I hope we try and drive this on a bit, hope for other people.
Absolutely.
Because I think I'll just go away again. We've got to really try and push this, I think. No.
Aye.
He deserves it. He deserves it. Family just deserves it.
Aye, certainly. What's your thoughts on it, Paddy? It was great to have Sid on as well, mate.
Brilliant. Lovely. I love to hear the stories of what goes on behind the scenes, because you know yourself when you're growing up and you're listening to things and you're seeing these things and you're just wondering, even days like that day at Dunfermline that I'm talking about, that Sunday, we were all crammed into a bar in Cushendall trying to watch the match on a portable TV. That was the days before like Sky and all that there carry on, and so we had nothing over here. If you went down the coast, you were able to get Scottish television. So we all headed I'm about 20 miles from the coast here, so we all headed to Cushendall or Carnlough or wherever it happened to go, and so we were all crammed inside a pub watching that Dunfermline game. And we thought when Simon scored, we thought, right, that's it, we're on the way here. And then I'll never forget that guy scoring the big looping header that just dropped into the net. And so it's nice to hear. I know what we were doing that day, and it's nice to hear the other side of what were the players actually thinking that day. So it's always just brilliant to hear the thoughts of the ex-players and that.
And Craig Falconbridge is still going around pubs in Dunfermline getting free pints.
Guy never had to buy another drink in his life.
I know, unbelievable.
Yeah.
So, gentlemen, now we've lost our Sid, we can have a quick chat about the previous games. We've not had Jerry on for a while. We've not had Paddy on for a while. We had Paddy the other day, but Jerry's been missing in action. He's been doing his world tour of Scotland, signing his autographs. He's been doing his Alec Baldwin stuff all in Scotland. He was up in Dundee signing autographs the other day there as well. So let's have a quick chat. We'll start with Jerry, since we've not had him on. The game at the weekend, mate. Celtic 5, Falkirk 2. So let's just have a quick chat about it. Start off with that first half, Jerry, and the 8 changes that Brendan Rodgers made.
Well, has Brendan made too many changes? I think we've all agreed there, haven't we? I think a lot of supporters have said that. Especially, I think you can change a midfielder and a striker here and there, but the defence, I think you've got to stick with your defence. Obviously, none of them's injured. But the difference when Kuhn and Ida comes on, to me, sorry, listen, Falkirk rightly so get praised, Scott, but I think when we strengthened the team, you seen the difference, didn't you? You seen the difference when the good players come on. Listen, I know everybody's praising Falkirk for what they did, but I feel as if Falkirk came into our league, they would do the same as every other league team. I think they would sit and play for a draw. You know what I mean? That's what I think personally. I spoke to you a wee text here the other day. I looked at Livingston results last year. We beat them 3-0, 2-0, 3-0 and 3-0 in the league. We beat them 4-2 in the cup and it was 2 each with 4 minutes to go because they had a goal, Scott.
Yeah.
I mean, but the league games, they couldn't even have a go. And I feel it's embarrassing, these teams coming here and not having a go for Scottish football, entertainment. I know this might be controversial, but I honestly see for nothing, I would give you 8 points and you have to attack. No, I know it sounds daft, but you'd have to go and attack for it, you know? Because this team's, that's what I feel with Falkirk. Fair play to them, or a young team, they're a good team. I mean, John McGunn's gone well, isn't he? He's a great team. But I feel as if they come into the league, they'll probably do the same again, you know? The Celtic changed the subs. The subs come on, that was a difference. You know, I mean, Bernardo and awful. I thought Bernardo played well again. So I did. Palmer, I think he only stopped talking on social media and started talking his boots, I think, more. Wasn't it? You know what I mean?
Shocker for Palmer again. And Andy, we covered it on the post-match. But as I always say to you, mate, is there anything that you think you missed? And as Jerry said, you know, it was Kuhn that came on, mate, and changed that game, didn't he?
Absolutely turned the game on its head, mate. To get 2 assists and 2 goals in half an hour is just unbelievable, to be quite honest with you. He looks at such a different player than the player we seen last season. We know the issues he's had health-wise, but this shows you why he's been at the clubs that he's been at, the quality clubs he's been at. You know, that I kind of look at Kuhn in the way that I look at CCV as well. CCV's been out on loan at quite a few clubs and stuff like that, but maybe this is a place where he just finds it's a home now. He feels comfortable enough, and he's really in top form now. I think there's more to come as well. Obviously, the more Brendan works with the team's going to grow as a whole unit, you know. And I think the Champions League experience, no matter what happens with it, I think the experience alone, that win at Celtic Park is just brought the Thunder back. I know this is a new Lennon quote, but you know, the Thunder was really back at Celtic Park and thoroughly deserved, because the fans got what they've been craving, as especially an opening day victory in the Champions League, but for it to beat Celtic Park with such a raucous crowd and a great performance, I think it couldn't be instrumental in that. But I think overall the players who you've seen a big difference with this season, and obviously Engels coming in as a new addition, but you can see the quality there as well. I think Kuhn, for me, it really excites me. I think I love his attitude and his willingness to get forward and really go at players. But you know, there's going to be an end result at the end of the move. You know, these final ball's going to be better than what we've used to. I've seen that actually, interestingly. It's Big John Hughes Jr. was talking about, would you rather have Jota or Kuhn? I thought that was quite a hard one to choose there.
Aye, difficult question, mate. But we'll go around the table and we'll ask it in a wee minute. But just want to come to you, Paddy. One of the things that we touched on the post-match show that I kind of want to talk about at the minute is maybe our bench isn't as strong as a lot of us think it is. And that was sort of proven against Falkirk. The guys come in. I watched Callum McGregor's press conference today on Celtic TV just before we came on air, and he said that he didn't envisage Brendan to ever make 8 changes like that again. It was kind of one. He didn't want to slag off the guys that came in, but I think we could all see it that they're not up to speed, and which is fair enough. They haven't been starting and stuff, but is your bench as strong as we think it is, and was it showing up for what it was against Falkirk?
I think the one thing we have done, I think we've definitely got maybe better quality now and maybe better options than we did have before. We had guys like Haksabanovic and and one or two other guys who just weren't really contributing. So, but again, we touched on it at the weekend. You see the guys who are sitting on the side waiting for an opportunity. If they're looking at Maida, if they're looking at Kuhn, if they're looking at Kyogo, and if they're looking at Callum McGregor, if they hope to, break into this team or displace that, they're going to have to take their opportunity when it comes. That's what it's about. Football is about taking your opportunity when it comes. I mean, I keep using Liam Scales as an example, but Liam Scales probably, in all likelihood, wouldn't even have been at Celtic had he not taken his chance with both hands. If you look back to a year ago, like, he was probably forced into a position where he had nobody else other than Scales to play, and the big guy took his chance, grabbed it with both hands, and now he's probably one of the first picks on the team. And that's exactly what I'm saying. So the likes of Lewis Palma, who, if he has any ambitions about being a Celtic player or getting into that team on a regular basis, he needs to look at what those guys are doing, and as I say, he needs to take his chance when he gets it. The one thing I will say again about the weekend is Falkirk deserve enormous credit for the way they played. We all assumed that they would probably try and sit in for the first 20 minutes, try damage limitation, whatever, try to get their foothold in the game. But no, they came and had a go, and they actually played some nice stuff. And that's the thing. The biggest compliment I can pay them on Sunday is that we really were fortunate to only be 2-1 down, and we couldn't really have any complaints. At the end of the day, if you're looking at the game honestly, we really couldn't have any complaints. We were 2-1 down, and deservedly so. The bringing on Engels, bringing on Ida, and Kuhn took us up another level or two. There's absolutely no doubt about that. Brendan knew himself. He admitted himself after that he probably made too many changes in it. The back four were probably strangers, but bringing those 3 guys on in particular just took us up another couple of levels. And that's where we actually won the game. But those guys who are on the fringes of things and are hoping to do something this year, they need to get to the levels that these guys are playing at if they have any chance of being a Celtic player.
Well, talking about going up levels, Andy just came out with a good one there, Paddy, and your grandson was in front of Kuhn the other night for the Champions League game. That was the player that he actually came out with.
Yep.
I've got 2 comparisons for you tonight then, gentlemen. We'll start with you, Paddy. One that Andy just mentioned there. Who would you rather have in your team, Kuhn or Jota, and why?
Thank you for coming to me with that one first there. Do you know what? That's a hard one. That is a hard one. I love Jota. I mean, the guy there was a flamboyance about him. There was just that, that swagger about him. What did I say the other day? That Glasgow word, he's pure gallus. I mean, there was that swagger about Jota. And the one thing that I always said that Jota I don't like to say he fell down, was, sometimes he didn't provide, a finish or whatever. And this is where Kuhn at the minute, if Kuhn can add a finish or a better ball, more often than he does at the minute, he's going to be absolutely world class, and he'll be up there in a par with Jota. There's no question about that. What I like about him is, as Andy said, is the fact that he only wants to go one way. As soon as he gets the ball, it's head down, and he wants to drive at the fullback. He wants to commit players in the box. You see, if he could actually if he does a bit of work on that left foot, on swinging that left foot and hitting a shot as he's cutting back across the goals, we will have one hell of a player on our hands. But it's very difficult to, it's very difficult to pick between the two of them. If you're making me pick, between the two of them, I would probably say technically Jota's probably the better player. But at the minute, I'm just delighted that we've got a player like Kuhn.
Aye, he's been fantastic, mate. Even in pre-season, ripping Man City to shreds and all the rest of it. I know it's pre-season, but what a player we've got in our hands. And since he's beefed up and put that weight on, he's definitely out the park, Jerry.
Oh, I couldn't go on great. That's a prime example of the sport that was showing me a bit of patience, Scott, with these guys. Can't expect them just to come off a plane and just put a jersey on and play for Celtic. Brilliant. takes a wee bit of time to get used to the environment and starting to show now. But the big thing for me is, listen, I thought Jota was brilliant. I'm a great believer in thanks for his time, we move on, and we start liking Kudnu and moving on to the next guy. I'm not one for trying to see better than him or I just love it when they're here and when they go away, I thank them for their time and I move on to the next guy and I start liking him even better. So I like Kuhn. I Kuhn's more direct. I think Kuhn's more direct than him.
Yeah.
Yang and Palmer for me are going to be these guys who they'll come off the bench for 20 minutes and look brilliant. You start them again and don't do nothing. They're impact players. They'll just be good players for the bench coming off 20 minutes here and there. They need to, as you say, they give them a start and they don't do enough for me. But Kuhn's more direct. But Jota, thanks for his time. But now we're going to Kuhn now. And so I'll not be separating any of them. But I love Jota when you say he was brilliant. So stick with that.
He certainly was.
I just want to say, Scott, obviously I didn't come up with this kind of idea of Jota. This was George Hughes on Twitter, so he's actually got a poll going. So if you go and have a look at Big John on Twitter and just click on whatever you think, it's interesting to see how that goes.
The reason I jumped on this, Andy, was because actually something that Simon and Gordon Dale were talking about on Super Scoreboard. Now, this was what I was going to ask you, because Gordon Dale came out with something the other night, right? And what he said was, Engels we're not missing Matt O'Reilly. Engels is a better player. So they all laughed at him and blah, 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 blah. And Simon was on with him the other night. And Gordon Dale came away with it. And Simon says, I actually agree with you. So it's a massive call to make this early on, obviously. But who would you rather have? It's not about who would you rather have. But I think they're right what they're actually saying, Andy. This boy Engels is something very, very special, isn't he?
He is, mate, and we all know he's young. He's only 21, just recently turned 21. He's obviously still got a lot of learning to do. But I think, especially ex-professional football players, I know fans now see the game the same and they know a player when they see one, but you get it for ex-professionals who are making that call. I trust their judgment and a lot of things, that they know stuff that I don't know. So if they're spotting a player like that, and you can quite clearly see it with your own eyes, the quality, the touch he's got, physical and all, a very clever player. And the sky's the limit with this guy. It really is. I wouldn't say I've totally forgot about Matt O'Reilly, because he was an absolutely fantastic player, and unfortunate what happened to Matt with his injury, and he'll go into bigger and better things as well, and I really hope he does. But you can see the class in Engels, and what a signing there is. I know we've forked out 11 million, or if you're a Hearts player, it's 10 million. But, excuse me, an absolute class addition to our squad.
I think what they're saying, Paddy, is they're not saying who's the better player and all that. I think what they're saying is we're not missing Matt O'Reilly because this boy's come in so quickly and hit the ground running.
Yeah, they're two very different players for me. Matt O'Reilly was a quality player too, and we saw that practically from day one. And I think the reason it's not that we're not missing him as such. Of course, you're always going to miss a quality player, but he's kind of filled that void there. He's kind of filled that void, and he's made us. We're now excited about this guy. So you can see the guy has everything. Like the guy just has everything. Like I've said that to you. Like the build, the touch, the way he takes the ball under pressure. The guy's just got quality written all over him. And that's why I said to you the other night, we need to, just like what Jerry said about Jota, we need to enjoy these guys while they're here, because this guy is destined for the very top. He's exactly the kind of player that Brendan spoke about before the window closed, about the board maybe being a bit braver in terms of if you can sign a player for 1 million or 2 million or 3 million and sell him for 10, but you can also sign a guy for 11 million and sell him for 50. And that's where this guy's headed. That is absolutely where this guy's headed. He just has everything. And I mean, last Wednesday night, the European game against Bratislava, You know, the guy just seemed that was his stage. You know, you could see him; he was comfortable in that environment. You know, he was one of the ones who was driving us on in the second half. And you know, again, as I say, this is why we're not. I don't like to say we're missing Matt O'Reilly because you know, but he's made us kind of sort of forget about O'Reilly. You know what I mean? Because he's that good. He's that good, and he has just slotted in there. He hasn't taken any time to settle whatsoever. He's just slotted in there. You'd look at Engels last Wednesday night, you'd think he'd been playing for Celtic for 5 years. You know, the guy is that good and he's that comfortable. So we're very lucky to have them. And as we said last week, you know, looking at the transfer window coming up in January, if we can push the boat out a bit further again, bring in another couple of players of similar caliber, the sky's the limit for us.
Aye, bang on, mate. Absolutely bang on. And Jerry, we've not really had much here recently, mate. You've not been on the past few podcasts because of the home games and stuff like that, and your wee jaunts around the country and stuff like that. So, I mean, what have you thought about Engels already, mate? He's came in and hit the ground running, but are you seeing what the rest is are seeing, mate? Something very, very special brewing there with that boy.
You see, that's funny, that's right. That's might sound daft, right? We're saying something special, right? But he's not done anything special, if you know what I mean. It sounds daft. It's the basic things he does brilliantly.
Yeah.
The simple things, Scott. It's just the simple things he does, the control, the touch, the awareness. It's just the simple stuff that he's brilliant. Your head coat is all very excited. As Paddy says, we don't have to be going out buying 5, 6, 2 crackers every window now. Two crackers and we'll move and get players like him around him. I think we're going to be talking. I hope we get 3 seasons out of him, but I think we could be talking in 2 seasons again, trying to hold on to him. It's just the way you say he walks in there, corner, speak. Sometimes it takes you 4 or 5 weeks to get into a team to suss out the players before he starts trying to take over. The guys, but you say 20 years of age, taking over. That there tells you everything you need to know. The confidence and the ability for the guy is just. He's getting things excited. You say Matt O'Reilly, total different players altogether.
Yeah.
But you see, we were upset a couple of weeks ago, and now you're only talking Matt O'Reilly when you're asked to talk about him. You're not even thinking about him anymore. Yeah. Just like that, innit? They come and go. These guys. Aye. And fair play to Celtic, whoever scouted, because they'll give the scouting a bit of a hard time. So whoever got him, fair play to them.
Yeah.
You must have watching him because he's a cracking player. Well worth the money.
He's been absolutely brilliant since he came in, and as Jerry alluded to there, you know, he's just grabbing that ball for penalties, free kicks. Most players wouldn't even dream of doing that, getting into a new team, and this boy's 21-year-old and saying, I'm here, I'm taking over, and this is what's going to happen, and he's producing the goods, you know, the corner kick for the Scales goal, the header, the 2 penalties, calm as you like. The boys class personified for sure.
So, I played with a guy that wanted to get goals for the penalties as well. He wanted to do everything. I played with somebody that wanted the goalkeeper's gloves for a penalty. Believe it or not, mental.
Who was that? Was that Tommy Burns?
Oh, better knows for him. No.
Is it Davey?
No, it wasn't Davey.
Brilliant. So, gentlemen, we have the small matter of a Scottish Premiership game on Saturday night, which has been changed to 5:45 kickoff UK time for the TV, and it is St Johnstone at home against Celtic. Now, we have some sort of breaking news here. Andy, potentially in the dugout for St Johnstone, could be somebody that we know pretty well. Scott Brown has been linked with the St Johnstone job, and by all reports, he is very interested in having a chat with him.
Aye, I just heard that not long before we come on, mate. I've been really, really busy today, so I've not really kind of had a chance to catch up on it, but I heard that. I think any kind of Premiership job for Scott Brown at this stage in his career would be a good move. I don't exactly know what the situation is with St Johnstone, but it's very strange what they done, the way they sacked Levine. No matter what you think about Levine, it was just a strange situation. I think he done the press conference and then they sacked him right after it. It was just, if I was a boss, I'd be looking at that saying, what's going on here? You know, it would be red flags for me. I think there's a lot of work to be done with St Johnstone as well. I think they've fallen a long way since Callum Davidson was there and done a lot of good things with that club. Their fan base is basically non-existent. Maybe if Bruni goes, it can get more people to go and watch them. I don't know. But is it the right club for him? I don't know. He would only know that himself. Is it maybe too soon? He's done a good job there as well, you know. So he might decide to stay where he is and maybe something else will come up. But yeah, you reckon that there's a good chance that might happen, Scotty, with him gone?
I don't see why no, mate. It's like we're saying, it's a blue chip signing for them, you know, and it'll get the fans back in. So that's maybe the big name that they need to fill the away ends that they're taking away for the away teams. I think it'd be a good move for him, mate. But he's doing well at Ayr. You know, there's no reason why he can't bring Ayr up as well. So it's a 50-50 for me. But I just love to see him back in the league again, and it'd be weird seeing him up against Celtic on Saturday night as well, Paddy? So what do you think of Bruni maybe got to St Johnstone, and what sort of challenge do you see St Johnstone bringing to us on Saturday, mate?
Do you know what? If he has any chance to stay where he's at, I think he's doing a fantastic job at Ayr. He's cutting his teeth in management. You know, yeah, it's a job in the Premier League, but you know what? You know, how long are they going to be in the Premier League? They're, you know, the way they've been carrying on there. I just don't feel it's the right move for him at this time. You know, there will be other bigger jobs coming up this season. When you look at the like Hearts and that, and you know some of the other bigger jobs that'll be there. I just feel like, you know, obviously Bruni will maybe think chance to get into the Premiership, but for me, I would like to just see him staying put. Just, you know, get a bit more experience doing the Ayr job, and as you say, there's no reason why he can't take them to promotion. And if he continues to do well, you know, as I say, there might be another bigger opportunity. As for the game, as I say, it's back to bread and butter for ourselves. Back to the, you know, so Brendan will have to go back to the tried and tested. There'll be no more chopping and changing at the back. He'll have to try and get the team, our strongest team on the field the way we did before. So, you know, again, it's just about, you know, going out there and producing a performance and getting the 3 points. We're starting a really, really busy period now where we're going to be playing in Europe and stuff. So we're going to be back to 2 games a week. And we've also got we're also going deep in the League Cup as well. So there's going to be plenty of games coming up. So we just need to start ticking them off one by one. So tough game away from home as always, but again, I'm expecting 3 points.
And down the road, aye, hopefully. Jerry, Bruni, St Johnstone, good job for him.
Nah, I don't think so. No for him. I think Ayr United are more ambitious to get more fans. I think he's better sticking with where he is. So, well, but as I say, St Johnstone not got a new chairman now. The boy used to be there for years. Is he no away now? And I think he's away. Or else he's gave it away. I'm sure the chairman might be away now.
I think one of them has the guy that was the chairman has a cancer diagnosis, and he's going to step aside for a while to get treatment. Now he did say he's got a very positive prognosis from the medical people, but obviously the guy it's going to be a worrying time for him and his family. They're going to have to go and he's going to have to go and undergo like cancer treatment and stuff. So I think he's going to step aside temporarily to get the treatment. But I did read where he said that they've been given a very positive prognosis. So that's always something. You wish them all the best with that. You wouldn't wish to see that on anybody, you know. So I know there's somebody. I think there's somebody going to come in and take over temporarily because he's going off to get treatment or something. I read that.
That's good news. Then somebody Scott Brown. I think Scott Brown may be perfect for him. Hibs job. 2 or 3 seasons of Hibs. Let's be honest, he'll be looking to get the Celtic job, isn't he? To me, that's his progress. But as on St Johnstone, Scott, to be fair to St Johnstone, those 3 games, they had a man sent off in the 3 games, every game. So they have. So they've not really had much luck that way. And they drew 3 each. Soon as a manager, you know yourself, as soon as a manager gets sacked, there's that wee 3 or 4 game bounce. They get a I'm more worried about who maybe comes in, or what, in Saturday if a manager does come in for them. Because that sometimes gives a place a wee lift. Right? Need a spare, but football-wise, we're too strong in it. I'll be tricky wee tie, but we'll be too strong for them. But I'm more worried about if I get a new manager and you get that wee 3 or 4 game bounce off a new manager. Then that's what I'm worried about more than anything come Saturday.
Do you know that for Scott Brown's own ambition, that's what I say. Like, there's Hearts. I know Derek McInnes is being linked with. He's one of the ones being heavily linked with the Hearts job. So if McInnes goes to Hearts, there's a job at Kilmarnock.
Kilmarnock
would arguably would be a better option for me for Scott Brown than St Johnstone would be at the minute. So that's what I say. If he bides his time, if he bides his time and continues to do a good job, I think a better opportunity will open up for him.
How do you think I've been with the Kilmarnock fans with their United manager going to Kilmarnock? They wouldn't be happy one day.
You know what, Andy? This is what it says. And like that's what I said to you about Scott. Scott Brown will have to focus on what's best for him. He can't start looking at what this fan will think or that fan will think. He'll do what's best for him. He will make the decision what's best for his own future. And that's what I say. Like, I'm no harm to St Johnstone, but for me, they're not a great option for anybody at the minute. They seem to be in a bit of turmoil, and like just as you say, even the way they handled the whole Levine thing was just a bit of a farce. So as I say, there's one or two things bubbling away there. There's other jobs there. Might be coming up as well. Like Dundee are under pressure at the minute. Dundee United are under pressure at the minute. And sometimes these things have a bit of a domino effect. Somebody moves somewhere, and it opens up a job somewhere else. And that's what I say. I was reading today that Derek McInnes is supposed to be one of the ones that's looking their favourite for the Hearts job. So there's a job at Kilmarnock that could be coming up if McInnes goes to Hearts. You know what I mean? So there are there's other look at Hibs, look at Heart. Look at the rest of the clubs in Scotland. As the season goes on, that St Johnstone will not be the only club that will be looking for a manager as the season goes on. So I just think if Brown, if he bides his time and keeps doing what he's doing at Ayr, keeps doing a good job there, then there'll be better options that'll maybe open up for him in the future.
Yeah. Aye, I'm with you, Paddy, for sure. I think he should bide his time. He's better off at Ayr United than taking the St Johnstone job. So I sit tight, Bruni, and a bigger job awaits you for sure. But if he does take the Kilmarnock job, as Andy said, we know he likes a bam up. So going for Ayr United to Kilmarnock will be absolutely nothing for our Bruni. Absolutely nothing.
No better man for it.
Exactly. He'll just stick his chest out and walk straight in there.
I'll tell you what, by the way, he looks that different with his hair, doesn't he? Actually looks all right walking, by the way. He actually looks a cool guy. Scott Brown with the hair, doesn't he?
Yeah, he's getting there. Right, gentlemen, let's get your predictions in for Saturday's game against St Johnstone. We'll start with yourself, Andy. What's your scoreline? Who's getting the goals? How do you see it going?
I'm going to go with 4-0. I think we'll get a few goals, mate. We're certainly not going to be up against a Falkirk. I can't see St Johnstone coming out and try to do anything against us. I've got to be honest. I think it's going to be damage limitation. We might struggle to get by them. I think they'll be really defensive, but we're capable of doing that, and we've got plenty of goals in the team. If we've seen the whole of this season, plenty of goals in the team. So I'm going to go 4-0. I think Kuhn will score. Kyogo, Maida and McGregor.
Maida back, aye. Good shout. And Paddy, we might be without Carter Vickers. Apparently he might be out for a couple of weeks. It's not been confirmed yet. Could be Trusty coming in for him. I don't think hopefully Welsh will never see a Celtic jersey ever again. So it looks like it might be Trusty that will come in for Carter Vickers if that's the case. But barring that, we should be going back to our strongest starting 11. How do you see it going, mate? And what's your scoreline prediction?
Again, I think you'll see Brendan maybe be horses for courses. This one, St Johnstone are a big physical side. Good pitch, good surface to play on, but there'll be a big physical side. So I wouldn't be surprised to see him going with Ida from the start. But again, comfortable win. I would go for 3-0. Goal scorers will be Ida, Engels, and Kuhn.
Paddy loves a 3-0, Jerry. He absolutely loves a 3-0. I don't think he's ever
That's my go-to score.
It's his go-to score. I think he said, I'm not even going to ask him next week.
Borussia Dortmund 3-0, Paddy. I like
that might be a bit tighter, that one.
I think so. I'll be honest, I'm going for 3-0 as well, Paddy.
There you are.
I feel hopefully the first half's a bit better than Sunday's game, but then again, after Champions League nights, we always go for that high to that low. First half, that worries me. I know sometimes after Champions League night, Scott, all seems to be the first half, and always a wee bit of stuttering to get going, you know. Yeah. So I'm hoping we're actually 2 or 3 not in half time Saturday night and make the changes quickly. Yeah. Get the changes, get them rested for. Is it Tuesday night, Dortmund?
Tuesday night.
Tuesday. Get the players rested as quick as possible. Tuesday night, get them off on Saturday night, get them rested. Go for Tuesday. Looking forward to Tuesday as well.
Aye, Tuesday will be a belter. I was going to touch on it quickly, but what I'm going to do is Davey's got a rundown on Dortmund, so I think he'll be on the post-match with you guys on Saturday night after the game. I unfortunately won't be able to make the next 2 podcasts, so I'm absolutely devastated about that, but I don't want to get into the Dortmund game, so I want to leave that for Davey to go into that on Saturday night with you guys. He's going to touch on Dortmund, I believe, then. And then, so the guys will be on again for the post-match St Johnstone game, the post-match Dortmund game, and we're going to put a full podcast on for you next Wednesday as well, and we're just going to cover both those games next Wednesday. So before I go, I just want to leave on the Tommy Burns theme because, you know, this has been Tommy Burns month. I just want to get on the table quickly just to give everybody give their thoughts on how you felt this Tommy Burns month has went. Andy, we'll start with you. How's it went for you, mate? It's been brilliant looking back in it.
It's been brilliant. As you said earlier on, you know, that the man we know is Mr. Celtic. We all feel as if we know Tommy, but obviously we don't. But speaking to people like Johnny, you know, his boy, it was superb to have him on in the first show. And obviously you get Davey and Jerry who have worked under him as young guys. And then Simon, who's been at Celtic with him and won that infamous Scottish Cup. It's just great to hear the stories, how people really feel about him. And one thing's for sure, that Tommy Burns will never be forgotten. When it comes to the Celtic family, he'll always be spoke about. Even for people that never seen Tommy, that weren't about when Tommy was alive, they'll know about Tommy Burns, because we'll continue to tell the stories about him and talk about his legacy and his time at the club and that. It's just been an absolute delight. And I just want to thank you guys, and especially you, Scotty, for the work that you've put into it. I don't think people realise the amount of hours and research and setting things up that goes on behind the scenes. So well done on that.
Thanks,
and well done, mate.
Thank you so much for that, Andy. I appreciate that. And Paddy, you know, it's been a funny but emotional month, really. It's just something that we sort of jumped on really quickly. You know, we found that we were talking about Tommy quite a bit at the start of when we started up this podcast. Yeah. I thought, why not just do a month on him and see how it goes? And just for the viewers as well, we did try to get other names in, and we were close to getting very good friends of Tommy on and ex-pros and stuff like that, and it just sort of fell by the wayside towards the end. But we did try to get a lot more guys on for you, and hopefully they'll still come on, by the way, and we can get them on in the future. Yeah. But Paddy, just give us your overall thoughts on this Tommy Burns month that we've had at the podcast.
Just been an absolute pleasure to be part of it, to be quite honest. As I told you at the start, he was one of probably my all-time favourite Celtic player if I was pushed. Just because I grew up with that. I grew up when, you know, I was only a young lad and I was watching him breaking into the team and stuff like that. And he just had that ability to mesmerise you. I think the best thing you could say is, you know, like all the stories from everybody involved, even the viewers. I mean, there's not been a bad word said about the guy. You know, you kind of get, you know, what kind of a human being, you know what I mean? Just an absolutely brilliant person, you know, they talk about faith, family, you know, stuff like that. There, the guy was a very ordinary, down to earth fella. You know, I mean, I was lucky enough to meet Tommy a few times outside the stadium, and there was none of that with him. There was none of that big shots, you know, stuff like that. Tommy was just a down to earth guy. And as I say, just listening to the stories from like the likes of Jerry and wee Simon and that, who played under him, and you know, wee Davey and them, and the rest of the guys who knew him and stuff like that. You know, it's just been an absolute pleasure for me to listen to it. And you know, you're not really surprised by anything that you've heard about him. You know what I mean? And as I say, I think the one thing, you know, that the Celtic support as a whole should be coming together. We should be applying certain pressure to the club, because it's a bit of a shambles, really, that there's not something named after him, whether it be one of the stands or one of the training grounds or whatever. You know, the man put so much into the club. You know, it's time that we had a fitting tribute to him somewhere at Celtic Park.
Aye, spot on, Paddy. Absolutely spot on. And Jerry, I just want to thank you, because you were actually one of our guests, speaking about Tommy, along with Davey, who's now a permanent member of the podcast as well. And thanks to Simon, and thanks to Jonathan as well. Just barring the night that you done, mate, you've been sat on the sidelines watching it like the rest of us. How it'll be a bit closer to home for you, Jerry, because you actually worked with the guy and played football with the guy, trained with the guy. You know, how has this month been for you, mate, just looking back on the memories?
I'll tell you, what a month, innit? I think it's been great. The first half, what a month, I'm thinking, but we could probably do another month. So we could. That's how it's flew in. It's been great. The stories have been brilliant. Jonathan was just, that was you again, Scott, as Andy says there. Well done, mate, for all that, because getting Jonathan to kick it off was just brilliant. Yeah. I mean, I've said before, it's like, this has actually been like the show again. It's been great. It's been funny, emotional. If anybody out there's not seen the show at the Kings, you need to go and see it at the Kings. What a night you'll get. It's tremendous about that show. It's great how they've done it. But just thank you for having us on for this and everything else. Being Paddy said it. Well, it's just a cracking month, and Andy says all your research and into everything. Just a pity we never got a couple of other players on, but maybe next time we'll get some players on, you know, other ex-players. But no, for the lack of trying anyway, to your side, especially you, Scott.
Yeah, hopefully, you know, we can still get them on. Like I said, it's something that we're going to bring onto the podcast for sure. There's a lot of ex-professional players. The contacts that we have behind the scenes, we're going to start getting a few of them on, I believe, in the future. We've got some, now that Tommy Burns' month is over, we've got some new stuff we're going to start bringing into the podcast. We've got a popping in feature, so we're going to have ex-pros, people today with Celtic, maybe a fan of the week, things like that. Maybe bringing in you guys that are sitting on the, you know, watching us and stuff like that. If you would like to pop on and give us your sort of Celtic story, you know, for a good 10, 15 minutes, that's maybe something that we can bring into the pod as well. Some funny segments, stuff like that. So we've got lots and lots planned behind the scenes, like I said, and that's definitely something we're going to bring in. So I just want to finish, ladies and gentlemen, with some Tommy Burns quotes, and then we will call it a night. So here is some of Tommy Burns' quotes that he said in real time. I was a supporter who was lucky enough to get the Hoop jersey to wear and become the people's representative on the park. When you pull on that jersey, you're not just playing for a football club, you're playing for a people and a cause. When you're 5, 6, 7 years old as a very young person, you have your dreams and everything. And I've been very fortunate that all of mine have came true. And I thank God for that. That was so special about them right there, Jim. Just right up there. That's what's so special about them. They're there and they're always there. And God bless every single one of them. That was Tommy being interviewed just after the 1988 League and Cup double in the centenary year. And a quote by the great Johan Cruyff. In the Celtic team, I like the red-haired man. Johan Cruyff, after Celtic played Ajax in the 1982 European Cup, and he was talking about Tommy Burns. What a great way to finish. Thank you so much for everybody that's been involved in this Tommy Burns month. It's been an absolute pleasure to bring it to you. And like I said, please like, share and subscribe this podcast, man. We're going to do things different to everybody else, believe it or not. We're a podcast by the fans, for the fans. Tell your pals, like, share and subscribe. And the lads, will see you on Saturday night after the St Johnstone game. Thank you so much for watching us this evening, and God bless every single one of you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, guys.
Yes.
Yes.
Gentlemen, I give you Tommy Burns.
The shark bait has such teeth. I don't need backup music, mate. Oh, the shark bait has such teeth there, and he shows in pearly white. Just a jackknife has old Maggie bait, and he keeps it out of sight. You know when that shark bites with his teeth there, scarlet billows start to spread. The fancy gloves, dear, has old Maggie bait. So there's never a trace of red down the sidewalks. Oh, Sunday morning, lies a body just oozing life. Well, someone sneaking round the corner. Tell me, could that someone be Mac the Knife? There's a tugboat down by the river, don't you know, where the seamen bag just a duping on down. Man is there for the wait, dear. Say 5 will get you 10 old Maggies back in town. Here by Louis Miller, he doggone split the scene bait after drawing out all of his hard-earned cash. And now Mac Heath spins just like a jailer. Could it be my man's done something rash? I said, Jenny Dava, oh, Suki Tadri, look out for Miss Salad Lignon and oh, Lucy Brown. Oh, the line forms on the right, babe. And now that Mackie back in town. Look out, old Mackie is back. Yeah.